before we get into our exercises to improve our posture, I want to talk about just the basics of a good standing posture. A lot of times, especially in, social media land and advertisements and on television, we have a distorted view of what good posture is. So you see those compressive sort of t-shirts or little buzzers to remind you to pull your shoulders back and stand up tall. But really, that's exactly the opposite of what we want to do. Now, I don't want you to slouch either and come into this posture, but we can use some very, very small little tricks and tidbits that we can remind ourselves of to sort of get our body back in space and allow for us to manage gravity as easily as possible. And the thing with good posture is that it should feel effortless when you're standing. You shouldn't feel like you're constantly trying to get out of your back feeling tight or your hips hurting and your SI joints hurting. And you really can just stand with ease and feel comfortable. So if we look at the pelvis, we have our ischium bones here at the bottom, and attached on our ischial tuberosities, which is basically just your sit bones, are our hamstring muscles. So when we contract our hamstrings, we sort of pull these underneath us so they're parallel to the ground. Well, our heels have a huge connection into what is happening here at the pelvis. So the first cue I like to give my clients is to tell them to stand and take their weight and take an exhale and just sit back on their heels. So as they exhale, those deep abdominals are going to turn on and help to pull the front of the pelvis up. And as they sit back on their heels, those hamstring muscles can kick in and the pelvis can orient right underneath us. So I'm keeping soft knees, pushing back on the heels, and all of a sudden with that exhale, I feel nice abdominal tension, therefore reducing the tension in the lumbar spine. Majority of the time you'll catch yourself, myself included, leaning on to my toes, locking my knees, and shoving my hips forward. What that does is drop my sternum down. So now I'm sort of hanging out on my joints is what I like to say. I'm hanging out on the front of my hips. I'm hanging out on my sternum. I'm hanging out in my thoracic spine. And I'm using a lot of low back to help maintain this posture. So biggest cues are going to be take an exhale, back on the heels. Take that sternum and imagine that it's lengthening high and my chest is coming up. I'm not squeezing my shoulder blades back. I'm just relaxing my arms and staying tall and back on the heels. So give it a try. Start with your baseline of standing. Don't think about it and just scan your body. Think about what's happening in your feet. Where is the pressure? Is it more forward? Is it more backward? And then once you've got that in your mind, go ahead and take that nice exhale, get back on the heels, stay tall, lift the sternum, but don't pull those shoulder blades back because we don't want to block the backside. We should have a curve. And stand there and just take maybe 10 full inhales through the nose and then a long exhale. And a lot of times, that will alleviate a ton of tension throughout the back, the hips, and even the feet that are used to sort of gripping on the ground. So start with that and go watch the next video for some specific exercises to improve the expansion in the areas that you need.